we actually have a Tellarknight list performing relatively well, and, well, Naturia, Ishizu, and a punk deck, excuse me, a stun deck that you'll be able to use as a basis going forward. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. Kongman reached out to me and said, "Hey Robbie, my locals had a 2-day early ban list tournament for fun, and guess what? I ran it home with Tellarknights of all things, and I'm genuinely impressed by some of the card choices in here. First of all, we're playing Satellar Nova Wave, which is a once per turn during your main phase or your opponent's battle phase, special summon a Tellarknight monster from your hand. That's some interesting interactions. We're also playing Sirius here. If this card is summoning, target 5 Tellarknight monsters in your graveyard, shuffle all 5 into the deck, and then draw a card. So we have a recycle engine going here. And we're playing Star Seraphs in here as well for some extra draw power. Okay, so we have 2 copies of Anukulhai, just for your generic dump. Triple copies of the Scepter. We have triple copies of Altair for the Revive. 1 copy of Sirius. Triple copies of Deneb, with triple copies of Vega. We have triple copies of Sovereignty. Then we have 1 Rhoda with 1 Monster Reborn. Triple copies of Skybridge, 1 Called by the Grave. Triple Limited Permanents with 2 copies of Ice Dragon's Prison, 1 Satellar Nova Wave, 2 copies of Crackdown, triple Anti-Spell Fragrance, 2 Solemn Strikes, and triple copies of the Alpha. Down in the extra deck, we got 1 Rafflesia, 2 copies of the Ptolemaios. Oh boy. You know, it was a matter of time till somebody, figured out something with Ptolemaios. I've seen lots of interesting decks, but I think this has by far been one of the coolest. We have 1 Dweller with 1 Baguski, triple copies of Trever, 2 copies of Daltaros, 1 Ptolemaios, 1 Blaze Falcon. Oh, okay, so rank up target. Sure. Then we have 1 Nova, 1 Constellar Diamond, and 1 Infinity. And then we have triple copies of Nibiru, triple Big Ball, triple Dimension Shifter, 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, triple Evenly Matched, and 2 copies of the Trap Hole of choice here, wrapping up your Satellarknight list. Next up here, I've been enjoying seeing these different Ishizu runic list that have been popping up out of the woodwork, because the deck didn't inherently get touched on the list. Oh yeah, sure, you lost, Herald of Orange Light, but you know who else was using, the same engine as this? The best deck in the room. I am not surprised, at the very least, see the changes and things in the tone back for this deck. So, as long as the Ishizu package is going to exist, decks will find ways to use it. And to be honest with you, Naturia, one of the coolest toolboxes in the room to be able to do just that. So, we have 1 Herald of Orange Light, 2 copies of Fenrir, with 1 Kelbeck, triple copies of Keldo. We have triple copies of Mudora, triple copies of Camellia, triple copies of Mole Cricket, with 1 Stinkbug. We have 1 copy of Little Sunflower, with 1 Naturia Vein. And then we have 1 copy of the Awakening Forest, 2 copies of the Flourishing Hills, and then we have triple copies of the Misting Seedlings. And then we have triple copies of Foolish Bro Goods, triple copies of Forbidden Droplet, with triple copies of Blessing, 2 copies of Talents, with 1 copy of Exchange of the Spirit. We have 1 Gravekeeper's Trap, and then we have triple copies of the Amazing Tree Searcher. And then down on our deck, we got 1 Unicorn, with 1 Asa, 1 copy of Almaroris, 1 Utopia the Lightning, with 1 Dugaris the Timeless, 1 Baguski with 1 Utopia. Then we have Sky Thunder with 1 Dweller, 1 Trishula with 1 Chengying, 1 Naturia Beast with 1 Barkion, 1 Quandrax, and then we have 1 Baron de Fleur. And of course you got your Bias Deal package, so we have 1 Drosworm, triple copies of Magnanet, we have 1 Pinkertops, triple Space Rock, 1 Cowboy of Time, triple Twin Twisters, and triple copies of Evenly Matched here, wrapping up your take for, Naturia Good Stuff, the deck. Now, since today is the last day before ban list shift, I know you're gonna see Mystic Mind in here, and you're gonna go, Robbie, I don't care. Put in a Necro Valley. All right, you adjust to the times. All right, it's really nice to see a stun deck actually show up out of the woodwork here. And one of the cards that actually helped this out was the Apex Predation. So if you control a normal summon or set monster, destroy all special summoned monsters on the field. Until the end of your next turn after this card is activated, you cannot normal summon or set. You can only activate 1 Apex Predation per turn. You may say board wipe. Yeah, that's exactly what this card is. Alright, so we have one copy of Incredible Ecclesia. Just kidding, it's regular Ecclesia. We have triple copies of Fossil Dyna and triple copies of Inspector Border. And we have one card Demise because we're back to this point in our lives. Two Mystic Minds, Axum from more Necro Valley. We have triple copies of Nadir Servant. Two copies of Necro Valley. Triple copies of Pot of Duality with triple copies of Pot of Prosperity. We have one Terraforming. Two copies of Apex Predation with triple copies of Compulsory Evacuation Device. Triple copies of Crackdown. Triple copies of Dogmatica Punishment. One Metaverse, one Dynamiskies, two Shadow Imprisonings, and triple copies of Solemn Judgment. Down in the extra deck, you have the one Lingaribo, your one Unicorn with your one Phoenix, one Totally Awesome with one Zeus, you have one Wind Pegasus with one Omega, and we got one Starving Venom with your one Trifoverdom, one Dracostapelli with one Mudmud, one Garuda, and of course, triple copies of Anitis. Side deck here, you got two little turtles, two copies of Cosmic Cyclone, two copies of Super Polymerization, triple Dark Bribe, one copy of the Destructive Daruma Cannon, or Karma Cannon, triple Evenly, and then two copies of There Can Only Be One here, wrapping up, quite honestly, what I would expect out of the meta. Like, for anti-meta, yeah. Next up here is Exosister. Oh boy, oh boy. Necro Valley is just moving on in here as the anti-meta card of choice. Like, to be fair, it does have the clause of shutting your opponent off. I can't really blame decks for having to go to the point of having to rely on this card. If the format was any different, then sure, I can imagine a cutback on this. But just from where we're sitting right now, we don't have a choice, alright? Like, it's kind of Necro Valley, or, Draw Shifter or bust. So we have triple copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. We got triple copies of Dimension Shifter. Triple copies of Ellis with only one Irene. Triple copies of Martha with two copies of Sophia. We have triple copies of Stella. And we have one Armament, two copies of Carpe Diem. Triple copies of Pax, triple copies of Necro Valley, and you got triple copies of Pot of Prosperity. Then we're playing two copies of Evenly Matched. If you draw, you draw. I kind of feel like. It gives you a chance to go second. We have two copies of Returnia, triple copies of Vadas, and triple copies of Infinite Permanence. Down the extra deck, you got one Lina, one Baguski. This is plan B if something goes wrong. We have one Cowboy for Time, two Magnifica, triple copies of Mikhails, two copies of Caspitiel, one copy of Jabrine, and two copies of Volsophiel. And then we're actually playing two copies of Zeus. Kind of as the format, goes along, I think this will be a little bit stronger. Then we have one Druist Herd, two copies of Magnanet, actually playing triple copies of Necomane King. So somebody out here still holding on to the thought and concept of this. To be honest, I don't know how much, Tier's going to want to mill against you, but understandable. We have triple copies of Dark World No More, one Dimensional Fissure, two Lightning Storm, two Gozen Match, and of course, one Macrocosmo here. Wrapping up your Exosister, I expect this deck to massively evolve going forward here, just as we kind of see some big change here. And last but not least, look, it's a deck that doesn't change at all. I put this in here on the profile just to kind of lump back in, some tier to kind of show that, how much of this actually will be sticking around, as we go into the new format, how much of the evil villain will still continue its job. So we have triple copies of Jerusalem, triple copies of Magna Hut, and two copies of Saranir, along with two copies of Ghost Bell. And you got triple copies of Kelbeck, triple copies of Keldo, and triple copies of Mudora. What's an Agito? No point in playing it. We have triple copies of Havnus, with triple copies of Merly, triple copies of Reno Heart, and triple copies of Shea Red. Then you got one Instant Nuggy, triple copies of Paralino, two copies of Scream, one Terraforming, one Talents, and one copy of Solicare, wrapping up your main deck. How much, meta game busting good stuff can you wrap up, shove into a deck, and have it work? Well, this is your answer. We have one Sprint with one Elf, one Dehark, one Willow, one Time Thief Redoer with one Baguski. We got one Sky Thunder with one Beatrice with one Abyss Dweller. Then you got, of course, one Rukalos, one Kid Galos, one Kaleido Heart, one Dracostopelia, one Mudmud, and one Garuda. Side deck here, we have one Ghost Bell, triple copies of Spooky Dogwood, one Necro Banshee, we have one Scattershot, two copies of Dark Hole, triple copies of Lightning Storm, one Talents, two copies of Zombie World, and one copy of Crime here, wrapping up your chunk of deck profiles for today. So, What do you guys think about all this interesting stuff? Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I will see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.